Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Papa's Workshops. These are for Adam, Brady, Luke, and Brenna, and for all those others like seeing an old man make sawdust. Let's check in with my apprentice. There she is. You're on guard duty, making sure nobody bad comes in here. There you go. Or you just want out, one or the other. But let's get to work. All right. This is episode 5, I think it's 5, of the Philly chairs. We're making a set of 4 chairs. So this episode we're gonna work on the splat. I don't know if we'll get to the crest rail in this one. Depends on how much video we get. But anyway, let's get to work. Right, so now we're going to draw the pattern onto the splat. Turn this around like that. So anytime you've got a symmetrical pattern, it's easier to just do one side, then flip it and do the other. Then you know it's going to be matching on both sides, rather than trying to make a template of the whole thing and making it perfect. So we've got the center line drawn on there and the center line on this. I'm just going to line the center line up. I'm going to get this top edge centered. Since we got a bow, we're going to have to clamp it on there. And then we can make fine adjustments with the hammer. Trace it out. I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing. All right, so we finish the other side and we take it off, and we got our patterns. Of course, we gotta cut this out, this out. There. So we'll do that on the scroll saw, I think. So while we're here, we're going to take the crest rail and lay out the pattern here for cut. It's the same thing. We're going to take this pattern, and then we're going to just flip it around. So we'll be cutting that later after we get the splat done. But all right, we're going to drill out these 2 spots right there with the Forstner bit, and I've got the cutoff to kind of support it, and I got a stop block to get them both at the same height, and I just have to line up the center line and I'll drill those holes. All right, with those 2 holes drilled, changed bits, and we're going to just drill holes for the scroll saw blade to get into the interior parts. Get the other 3 splats to this same point, and we'll be ready to cut them out. All right, I got all the splats. All the splats were cut out. Um, I don't have any video of that. I did it on the scroll saw. I've got this benchtop one, but I had, first off, I can't get all the way to the top because I don't have enough clearance. And I had trouble with it. I was just doing the outsides and it kind of went all over the place. I was having trouble getting close to it. So I went and I did them at the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. They have a big full-size scroll saw. But one thing I wanted to show was to overcome the curve. I don't know where that shows up. These don't sit flat. I mean, it's curved this way. So when you're doing this long way, it can be as much as a ½ inch off of there. And of course, that's going to do that when you're trying to. So what I did was I had this little piece here that I taped down to the table. So I could always keep the bottom side tight against that while I was cutting and didn't get the vibration. I thought about putting the pattern on the bottom side and then I could always keep it there, but you get this tear out and I didn't want that on the front side. I could deal with it on the back, but we didn't want to do that on the front. So now the thing to do is I'm going to get all the outside edges all smooth and to the line. I can use spoke shaves on some of this and files and rasps and get all the outside done. And then we'll start marking where we have to carve before we worry about the inside edges. So we get all the outside smooth. All right, we're getting set ready to start carving the splat. So we're going to do this in 3 phases, and we're going to do each phase on all 4 of them before we go to the next. This first one, I'm going to just start on this center section right here. So some of these areas need to be lowered. There's going to be a little flower right here. We're going to do that first. Then we have to lower these respective planes. So we can show that it's going across each other. There's going to be a carving up in here as well, but we're not going to do that until we glue it to the crest rail. But we're going to lower this section up to this point to allow for that to be up there. So first thing I had to do is come up with a way to hold this while I'm carving it. So I have just a board, and then right here is a little piece of 2x4 underneath, and then I've got a clamp, which then is clamped to the tail vise on my bench. So that's pretty rock solid. So to keep it from bouncing when we work on this, I've got the cutoff piece. So we're going to put that in there. We're going to wedge. This has got a 3/8 inch wide mortise down in here, even though this is a 1/4 inch, but it's kind of what it does. This is at an angle. It kind of wedges it in there. And so we got to get this around. All right, so that's good and tight with these tightened down. So we're going to start. We're going to just make the circle that the flower is going to go in. We're not actually going to carve the flower till the end, but we're going to just have that medallion, and then we'll start lowering everything. That way we don't risk accidentally hitting one of the petals and knocking that off. So we'll start out by marking a circle. All right, so we want the circle to be as wide as our, I don't know what you would call those pieces, but so we're going to line it up with the center line and get it to where it's just hitting those two circles. Okay, and that's what we're going to stay away from. And since we're here, we're going to mark the center part of it. And then I have a little template, which I can't find. There it is. It has 7 petals on it. So that makes it a really odd angle. That's like 51 and something degrees between them. So I just used a divider, which is probably what they did, around the circumference to get that. And I should have made my template on the outside, but I didn't. So I'm going to line this up with the center line. That dark one is the bottom. And I'm not so worried about the outline, but it's these marks here that I need to really transfer. We'll go ahead and put our notches in there. I moved it. See what I mean? It's just a little too small for my big fingers. And then since that's all going to be cut away, we're going to have to mark where each one of those goes. So when we get back to it, we'll get it. So this is a board that these splats all came out of. It's pretty fragile. The grain just kind of crumbles on you. And this was kind of the center of the board. You can see we got the lines here, and it's where the tree ring is like this. So maybe that's why. But anyway, so to avoid problems, I'm going to start with just taking a V tool and going around the outside of this, so we don't risk when we're lowering everything else, we don't risk getting it nicked. And I'm going to do the same thing with these other areas that have to be lowered. Just going to make a little pass on each one of these. We're not going to worry about this part. This has to be lower than this. These two lower than this one. But what we're going to do is get the circle for the flower all set up and get this all what it needs to be. Then we'll worry about marking those edges and bringing it down. As we have such a fragile space in between there, we'll go ahead and do that while it's all on the lower level for this, and then we'll lower them all. So All right, we got a preliminary going here. So we want the difference between the top and this lowered thing to be about, I don't know, it doesn't have to be much, a 32nd, 16th of an inch, not much more. So we're about there. These two here have to be greater than about 3/32 probably, because we're going to have our anthus leaf coming around both of these, and so the areas that don't have the leaf will have to go down. So this area will have to go down. So we need this to be sure that it's down low enough that it'll still be below our lowered area. So a good 3/32, maybe not quite an inch, or eighth of an inch. And these here should probably be a good 16th of an inch down. So I'm going to start refining these edges and get it down to those kinds of levels. And then we can get this all, we want this to look like one continuous plane except for the flower. Then we'll go ahead and start cutting that out. All right, we got these roughly down where they need to be. Still need to kind of flatten it out a bit. As you can see with the raking light, it's not exactly flat or smooth. We're going to work on this area here. So we need to define the outside edge of the flower. So we're just going to around and do the petals. Slightly bigger than the one I've got. I went a little too far. So then we'll just part ways here. And be careful not to break the petals. So we'll just keep doing this. We'll probably go down again with the border, get it down to this level here. All right, we got that all the way down and pretty smooth. Then take a scraper and try to get the rest of it all whatever the bumps. I went over it with a flat chisel, but it's hard to get it perfect. We're not going to worry too much about this, just this stretch here and then all around the flower. That's the finished surface on this one. So let me just get that. A little tedious, but this is what people are going to see first, so let me work my way around, then we'll find those two edges there and lower these two guys. All right, so this is pretty much done right here, except for the inside of the flower, which we'll do last. So now we got to make the lines that we need to follow. And to do that, we're going to use the template. This is a circle, an arc of a circle here, these two. So all we need to do is take and just move this down a little bit, and we should have the same arc like that. So that gives us a guide. So we'll just take what we did before, and we'll just go in from each end. You see why we wanted to get the flower first. And so we just kind of work our way down. We don't, like I said, this is more in the 1/32, 1/16 range. Well, I got a little chip that came out of there, so I'm gonna have to lower this one a little bit more. Get rid of that. I'm gonna just do the same process. We're gonna define that and then lower it down. All right. So we've got everything pretty much, these areas all done. So now we get to do the inside of the flower, and then we'll go on to the next phase. So I'm going to define that center section, and then this is just a little bit bigger than that. This is the same H7 that I used on the petals. So we'll whittle away at that, lower the area around it. So this is the second pass. We're just kind of again, this doesn't have to be terribly deep. Deeper. Okay, so I'm ready to do the that. Sorry, I had a scraper here. I'll get the pencil marks off the top of that. Kind of round it off a little bit. All right, so now we do the petals. And that's going to be with the 7/8 instead of an 8/7. And we're just going to start close out to the top and get down. We're just going to go around that way. If I can do this without bumping the camera. Carving has helped me learn to use my left hand more. Sometimes you just have to do it with your left hand. Get the right angle. All right, that looks pretty good. So now then there's two little marks that go on each petal. So just a little. Normally I would be standing where the camera is. All right, I think that's... So, we got to get the others to that point. Oh, I also, like this pencil line here, that looked fat to me, and I put the template back on, and sure enough, that needs to be trimmed down to that line, so we'll do that later. So, we'll get the others to this point, and then we will work on the next phase, which is going to be these two guys, and I think I'll get this edge lowered right here on both of these, and we'll save the anthus leaf for the last phase. Onward and onward. All right, that should do it for this episode. We're going to break the splat into two. So we're a lot more detailed on these on this project since we got 4 of them. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to share this with anybody that's interested in this kind of stuff, and we'll see you next time.